I am the change.
I am the change.
ฉันคือการเปลี่ยนแปลง I am the change.
I am the change.
I am the change.
I am the change. Blah, 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 blah.
Hello and welcome to this week's message of Be the Change. We hope you enjoyed that last individual and his attempt of I am the change. That's our grandson Eli, and you know you never can start him too young. But he just wanted to be part of the party. So welcome to the clan, Eli. But how is everyone doing this week? In looking back at last week's message and meditation, how has it been for everyone? Hopefully you are now fully engaged in doing the assignment every day, as well as taking advantage of the stilling the mind meditation and doing that in your everyday practice. You may have noticed that we did separate out the two, so at any time you can go back and you can do any meditation or review any message that you want to do. Again, we encourage each of you always to share any feelings or experiences that you may have concerning these messages and concerning your time participating in exercises and so forth. We want you to be a part of this that we are doing.
Please continue to do the assignment and exercise, as this will help you, as well as us, develop a better awareness and confidence in ourselves as we do it every day. This week's meditation, I've chosen stress relief with breathing exercise. This is an exercise that will help us whenever we start to feel overwhelmed or have a lot of stress in our life. We can remind ourselves to take 3 deep breaths and be able to release some of that stress and help you through this next week. Now, here's Brian to share with us this week's message. Brian?
For this week's message, we have chosen the topic of convinced versus converted. As we look at each of these words, I believe sometimes, if not most of the time, when it comes to human behavior, our own personalities and character, they somehow seem to become intertwined and take on the same meaning. Well, what do I mean by this? People who are convinced of something usually rely on intellect and logic. Take the simple fact that all of us want to be healthy. We know it is better for us, but are we willing to make the sacrifice to get to where we need to be? People who are merely convinced may have some doubt or fear of change and doing what really needs to be done. Whereas, if we truly want to change and become converted to better health, then there has to be a shift that happens between our mind and our heart. But keep in mind, like everything else, it is a process. We're not going to get to where we want to be overnight. As the conversion process takes place, then we begin to really desire to change. Then the idea of being more healthy begins to take on a whole different meaning. But it takes great work and sacrifice. As I've thought of a great example that I might use for this convinced to conversion process, it actually takes me to the Bible and the story of Peter, the apostle of Jesus. And I will paraphrase this, obviously, and use my own words. But let's take Peter, okay? He starts out as a fisherman, just out there every day. They're not the best of people. They're pretty rough, gruff, everything else. along comes a Savior and asks him to follow him. So he does. Whatever took place, he does. He follows him. And for the next 3 years of Jesus' ministry, he is with him all the time, every day, witnesses his sermons, witnesses his miracles, witnesses all these things, was on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus, witnessed all those things. And then what happens? On the eve or the morning of the crucifixion, what does Peter do? Denies him. Not only once, but 3 times. Imagine the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment. Was he converted at that point? No. He was convinced that Jesus was the Savior. He had witnessed those miracles. He had seen those things. But was he really converted? And then what did Peter do? He goes back to fishing. Okay? What he knows best. And then all of a sudden here appears the Savior on the shore. They don't even recognize him. But eventually realize who he is. Calls him ashore. And while they're meeting, the Savior asks Peter if he loves him. And Peter says, sure, yeah, I love you. What? What do you mean? The Savior then asks him again, Peter, do you really love me? Well, you know I do. I just told you I did. Then he asks him a 3rd time, no less. By this time, Peter's getting pretty anxious and distraught. Well, sure, yeah, I do. I love you. Then what does the Savior say? Feed my sheep. So what happens during this whole process that takes place from this incident to the time of actual Peter's ministry? We don't have a whole lot of information on that, but somewhere, somehow, that convinced became converted. It went from his mind down to his heart. And he became the great Peter that we learn of in the Bible. So during the coming weeks, we will begin to expand the concept of convinced versus converted to help us better understand the process that we go through to make this change. So just a reminder as we wrap up for today, continue to do the assignment given last time. I am good. I am well. I am loved. I am the change. Every day, at least twice, morning and evening, if not more. And also, make sure that you are taking time each day to spend a few minutes in peaceful meditation with Becky. This allows you those few minutes to be able to disengage from the world and bring a sense of calm to you and your spirit. As you do these things, our hope is that each of us will begin to feel the change happening in our lives. And again, don't forget to share any thoughts or experiences you have with us on our Facebook page, Brian and Becky Be the Change. So see you next time. Have a wonderful week. Continue to do that assignment. Participate in the meditations each day. Share with us as you can, and we will see you next time. Have a week of peace and joy.